actions I want you to do. Make sure you go to bwcdaily.com and sign up. Many of our hosts put their shares and insights on BWC Daily. You get an email newsletter. And number 2, check out the Facebook group, relatively new, but that's facebook.com/groups/BWC Daily, where we can continue the conversation. We can celebrate each other. Now I bring to you my brother from another mother, one of the smartest, handsomest men I know. Amazing gentleman, first-class entrepreneur, Dre Baldwin. He has the mic. Dre, welcome, brother. Well, you're doing well. Your family's good, and I hope you're going to do something restful this weekend.
Well, I appreciate you, Ramon. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. How are you doing?
You know, I'm good, Dre. I was in St. Martin's past weekend at a business event.
I saw your videos on Instagram.
Yeah, it was good, man. It was good. So I got back and I went to New York City with my daughter and my niece, and getting ready to go to a picnic today. So I've had a busy back-to-back, but I love it, right? This is, while I can, Dre, I want to do as much as I can.
Okay, great stuff. Well, I appreciate you. And I appreciate everybody for being here on this Memorial Day morning. All of you pat yourselves on the back for getting up early on this morning, where a lot of people are taking a vacation here today, taking a holiday, but you are up, whether you're taking a holiday or not. You are here to be in this room. And we're going to continue this thing that I've been doing the last couple of weeks here. I'm going to present 2 topics. And while you are voting on the topic, I am going to further the point that Ramon just made, that he took his segment so graciously to speak to when it comes to the subject of Memorial Day. First, what I'm going to do here is give you the 2 topics. You will vote in the chat here on Clubhouse. Then I'm going to speak about that. Then we'll figure out what the topic is. I'll introduce myself and get into the topic. I'll recap the topic, and then we'll open the floor for discussion. We're going to do all that over the next 59 minutes. So here are the 2 topics that we're going to throw out here today. One is businesses that you can start right now. These are things that any of you can start as a business or a side hustle right now. That's topic option number 1. And option number 2 is about acting and performing with speed. So put the letter B for you want to talk about businesses you can start right now, explain what they are and how and why you can start them now. And S if you want to talk businesses, or S if you want to talk acting with speed. How can you put more velocity behind the actions that you are taking? So B for businesses to start now, S for acting with speed. So while you are in, vote in the chat in Clubhouse right now with a B or an S, depending on which topic you want me to talk about. Now, while y'all are doing that, I want to speak as well on this subject of Memorial Day. And this is something that Ramon touched on a little bit in his segment. Peace is protected by war. All right? The fact that America is the most free country in the world. And Ramon, I know you were recently traveling. I know many of you are well traveled. Some of you are from outside of the United States. For any of you Americans listening who've never been anywhere, understand something. There's a reason why you hear people say all the time, everyone from every other country always wants to come here. Everybody wants to come here. They see this as the place to be. Why? Because we have the freedom to do what we want to do, be who we want to be, and live how we want to live. You have more freedom and opportunity. And when I say opportunity, we're talking economic opportunity, religious opportunity, and freedom. Options. We have more of that here in the United States than there is anywhere else in the world. And the reason that we have it here is because we have a military that is both willing and able to defend us in case it's needed. That's the reason why we can do what we do here in the United States. So we can get on here on Clubhouse every morning from 5 a.m. to 11 a.m. and give people motivation, inspiration with a high dose of positivity. We can do that because we don't have to worry about being invaded or attacked by another country. And if we are, then we know that we're going to be protected because of the military that we have, because we have people who are willing to put their lives on the line to defend our rights to, if you want to be LGBTQ, if you want to, or if you want to speak out against Democrats or Republicans, whichever party is in control at the time. If you want to disagree with the president, you can outwardly do this stuff. Some of you have to understand, if you haven't been to other places, there are places where you can't speak out against the government. Whoever's in charge, you can't speak out against the government. They'll come after you. They'll come after your family. They'll come after your kids. Your whole lineage going down will never be able to do anything again in that country. You speak out against the country. There's a guy who plays in the NBA. He's from Turkey. His name's Enes Kanter. And he was playing in the NBA in the United States, and he spoke out negatively against the government back at home in Turkey. He can't go home. He can't go back to Turkey. As soon as he got off the plane, if he did, he'd be in jail, and it'd be a long time before he got out. simply because he criticized the government that's in charge in that country right now. Some of you may be from countries where you know that's the reality and you can't do that. And there are many places in the world where the economic opportunity is not the same. If you are making a little bit too much money, somebody's going to come to you and say, okay, a little bit of that money belongs to us. Well, who are you? Well, we're the people who are going to take some of that money, or we're going to take something else from you that's much more valuable than your money. The opportunities and the freedoms that we have here, just on the stuff that we talk about here at BWC and a bunch of other things, are protected by the fact that there are human beings who have in the past, are right now, and will in the future put their lives on the line so that people like us, and maybe some of you are from the military background, and or someone like myself who is not, and I'm not from a military family, I've never been in the military, the people like us are defended by those individuals. So we should take time, at least take a moment today for all of us to just think about and be thankful for the fact that that exists. And this is all protected, not because America is America by itself, but because we have a military and people who put their lives on the line to defend us. So with all that said, I just want to make sure that I made that point. Somebody was about to speak? Was somebody speaking there? Okay. So now that I made that point, let me go ahead and see what we got in the chat here and see what topic we are going to discuss. So we got some speed votes. Some of you are voting more than once. I'm seeing this. We gotta get some voting regulations in here. So speed. We got speed. We got some B's, some S's. Good number of S's, some B's.
Dre, would anybody in this community vote more than once? We're a group of honest, good-natured people, Dre. Nobody would try to crash them.
Yeah, we gotta get some voting regulations here, Ramon. We gotta get I don't know what they call it, voting certifications. All right, I think we're gonna go with the speed topic. I think we're getting we got a good number of both. This is Clubhouse. Any of you knows anybody who works in the Clubhouse HQ? We got to get them to put in some type of voting mechanism so that we can actually count these votes, because it's been too close every single time I've done this. It's so close that I kind of got to pick. But this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about acting with speed here today. My name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day. I'm a former 9-year professional athlete. I'm author of 33 books and 4 TED Talks. Create this whole brand called Work on Your Game, where we take the tools to help athletes get to the top 1% in the sports world. And when I say the tools, I mean the mindsets and strategies and the accountability. Not necessarily, you don't have to jump 40 inches in the air or catch a football or do push-ups. But we might make you do that in the process. But taking these tools to help athletes get to the top 1% in sports and translating those tools over from the sports world to the business world to help you perform at your highest level, be consistent at that performance, and of course, as a result, since we're talking business here, make more money at what you do. So what we're going to be talking about here today is acting with speed. And I actually broke this up into 3 different subtopics of this whole concept of speed. Now, why is acting with speed? Why does this even matter? Why is this something that anybody would need to do? The reason why you want to put more speed and velocity behind your actions is because if you can move yourself to get things done faster, whether that's your thinking is faster, your communication is faster, your decision making is faster, or just your physical actions happen faster, then what happens is you get to live more than one life. If you take the current default slow pace that many of us move at, that default sleepwalking that many of us live our lives, that pace that we live our lives at, and you were to speed that up, well, you get a lot more done. You get to experience a whole lot more, and you just get to achieve a lot more while keeping on in mind, everybody, that all of us are on the clock. Literally, we're all on the clock, because at some point, as far as today's technology, as far as we know, nobody lives forever. All right, everybody at some point is going to die, and your time will be up. It'll be over, and whatever you did is what you did. What you thought about, what you planned, what you wanted to do, what you were considering, none of that's going to matter. All right, I've never seen an obituary that talked about what somebody was about to do. So it's all about what you did do. So let's get into acting with speed. And the first subtopic here, I'm going to give you 3 different subtopics with 3 points apiece. First subtopic is at your own pace. Whenever anybody says something like, I'm going to do that, but I'm going to do it at my own pace. Any of you ever use that phrase? I do things at my own pace. Let me ask that question first before I even give you the punchline. Put the number 1 in the chat. If you have ever said, or maybe you got something you got going on right now in your life, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm just doing it at my own pace. Put the number 1 in the chat if you are guilty of using that phrase, at my own pace. Okay, so I see a few of you putting the ones in the chat. Christina, Journey, Health, Angeline. Okay, here's the first point. At your own pace is too damn slow. Your pace is too slow. So if you ever say that, what does that really mean, and why is it a problem? That's what we're going to address. Number one, why do all the best performers you know of, business people, athletes, entertainers, anyone in between, you know why they all have coaches? You know why they all have advisors around them and they have teams of trainers and people to keep them on point around them? One of the biggest, most profitable companies all have a bunch of people working there instead of just one genius doing everything by themselves. The reason is when we have other people around us, at least high level on point individuals, they push us to do more than we would ever do by ourselves. And when you're working with other high quality people, you get a lot more done than you would ever get done doing everything on your own. What a good coach or trainer's job is to help you get triple the results in half the time. That's what a good coach should be able to do. Yes, they will help you do the things that you want to do, but a good coach or trainer is not just going to help you do the stuff that you already had planned. A good coach or trainer is going to help you do more than you had planned, and you're going to get it done faster than you would have got it done if you did everything on your own. Because I know most of you who are in here right now is 84 people in the room and also on Instagram. Shout out to everybody on IG. Most of you are talented, you're skilled, you're well-intentioned. I mean, it's Memorial Day, 8 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. You're here taking in material that will help you grow and develop. So there's something different about you from the average person. At the same time, there's only so much you will be able to push yourself, and only so far you're going to be able to go all by yourself. And what a good coach or a trainer does, a good accountability partner does, a good high-level person around you is going to do is they're going to move you in a way that you would never move yourself. That's the whole point. Because all human beings, we all have this self-regulating mechanism within us that there's only so much pain we will put ourselves through. But another human being, see, they don't feel the pain that you feel. So they'll be willing to push you further than you're willing to push yourself. And you'll realize only when someone else pushes you that threshold of pain that you thought was as far as you can go a lot further than that. But when you're the one in control of the wheel, you would never push yourself that far. But when someone else is in control, they will push you that far. That's the type of people that you need around you, and they will push you to get things done faster. Because if you could do everything on your own, well, we wouldn't need social media. We wouldn't need Clubhouse. We wouldn't need to talk to each other. We would all just do everything by ourselves, and the world would be run by computers. Point number two, we're talking here about moving with speed. Number two, when you say you're doing things at your own pace, my own pace, quote unquote, that means you're staying in your comfort zone and doing what's convenient for you. That's what it means. Anytime you say I'm doing things at my own pace, that's really what you're saying. We translate it. I'm doing things that are comfortable for me and convenient for me, so I'm going to do it this way. And listen, let me be clear. You can be doing things at your own pace and be very good at it. You can do things at your own pace and be the best in your field, the best at your office, the best in the neighborhood at what you do. That is not the same as you being at your full potential. That doesn't mean you squeeze all the juice out of your orange. I heard someone was talking to Michael Jordan and asking him, what makes you so great at what you do? Michael Jordan said, well, I don't compare myself to, this is back when he was playing, I don't compare myself to other players, because if I compare myself to other players, there's only so far I will push myself. I compare myself to the best that I could possibly be. So his standard was way higher than all of his competitors. Is one of the reasons why he was winning so much, on top of the fact that he had the right ability, he chose the right vehicle. But you don't want to be doing things at your own pace. Your own pace is not the best that you could possibly do. Your own pace is a formula for mediocrity at best and abject failure at worst. And this is all relative, folks, relative to your potential. Because see, if you're doing things at your own pace and you're surrounded by a bunch of mediocre people, your own pace can still be the best of everybody in there. So you may be looking at me crazy, like, well, Dre, why do I need to go any faster? Look at my results compared to everybody else in here. Well, listen, your potential is a lot higher than everybody else in the room. So it doesn't matter that you're better than them. Are you better than what you could be? That's the question you really need to be asking yourself on a daily basis. So anytime somebody tells me that they're doing things at their own pace, they're telling me that they don't want to be pushed. They don't want to step out of their comfort zone. They just want to do things their own way. The problem with this is your own way and your current pace is not going to be enough to get you to your desired outcome in a reasonable time frame. And when I say a reasonable time frame, what I mean is translate it before you die. And all of us is on the clock. And this is something that a lot of people don't like to talk about that or think about it, but it doesn't change the fact that it exists. Point number three, we're talking moving with speed. Your own pace is not the solution, folks. It's the problem. Doing things at your own pace is not the solution to your issue. It is the problem. It is the thing that is actually causing the issue. And see, over here at Work on Your Game, one of the things that I help people understand before you even come into our world is that many times people's challenge is not that you don't have answers to your questions. And this is what many people think. I just had 2 group coaching calls yesterday, and on those calls, it was just open Q&As. And people come with a lot of tactical and strategic level questions. Well, what about this? Or how can I do this? Or Dre, what do you think about this? And I just sat there and just answered all their questions rapid fire. And at the end, I told them all the same thing. Most of the time, your biggest challenge is not that you need someone to answer all your questions, because I just answered all you guys' questions. You're still going to have the same problems next week, for the most part, that you have now. Because what we really need to do is not answer questions. What we need to do is replace your questions with better quality questions. We got to figure out what's actually leading to the question. We got to get to the root of the issue. And a lot of times people think if I just get answers to these questions over here, that'll solve everything. When actually the fact that you're asking those questions is the exact problem that you have. You're asking the wrong question. And what we do here at Work on Your Game is we replace your questions with better questions. So your own pace is not the solution, is the problem. The law of inertia, those of you familiar with thermodynamics, the law of inertia states that an object in motion shall remain in motion, or an object that is not in motion shall remain not in motion until or unless acted upon by an outside force. You moving at your own pace is your inertia. The pace that you are moving at is the pace that you are comfortable with. And when it comes to inertia, to put these in more everyday terms, when an object is moving and it keeps moving, we call that momentum. And when an object is doing nothing and it keeps doing nothing, we call that stagnation. So all of you have heard of those phrases. Those are just different ends of the spectrum of this law of thermodynamics called inertia. The pace that you're moving at is the pace that you're comfortable with. Is usually, again, not fast enough to get you where you want to go. Those who are able to do that by themselves is a very rare breed, and they're usually not doing it by themselves. They just appear to be, because you just don't know what's going on behind the scenes. They have help, and the hardest working, most productive, most disciplined, most efficient people you know of, they all have help. You may not see it, you may not know about it, but they have other people around them that allow them the space to do the things that they're doing, or they're helping them do what they do. So if you are not working as hard or being as productive or as disciplined or as efficient as you would like to be in your life or in your business, it is because of your insistence on doing things at your own pace. Your own we're fighting for is the thing that we're fighting against. And the only way you're going to get out of doing things at your own pace is you got to get around someone who is going to push you out of your comfort zone to do things that are not comfortable for you, not convenient for you, but are actually going to help you achieve your outcomes. So one thing I say here at Work on Your Game is that our goal is not to make you feel good, but to help you do good. And sometimes the things that make you the most uncomfortable are the things that are the best things that you need. Now, when I send out my daily motivation text message every morning, I put the number in the chat for any of you who would like to get that text. And I remember I sent the message out last week and somebody said, well, Dre, that message doesn't sound very motivational. And I questioned them. I said, well, define motivation. And they said, well, it needs to be uplifting and positive. I said, well, no, on the contrary, that's not correct. Definition of motivation is anything that moves you to action. And can everybody here agree? I want you to put the number 2 in the chat. If any of you has ever received a slap upside the head or a kick in the ass that moved you to action, that moved you to more action than the pat on the back moved you to action. Has any of you ever had that happen? Sometimes the kick in the ass or the slap upside the head is what you need to move yourself to action, whereas a pat on the back was not enough to get you out of your inertia. So what people need to understand, again, sometimes people are asking the wrong question. They're saying, well, I need a motivating and uplifting and inspiring motivational message to move me to action. Well, uplifting and inspiring might not be enough to get you to do something. Sometimes you need something different. So let's move on to the second sub-segment here of what I'm talking about. I'm talking about implementing with speed. This is the second part. Why to implement with speed? So definition of implementation is to put a decision, plan, or agreement into effect. All right, we all understand, and I've already emphasized this today, time is of the essence in life. All right, the most valuable resource at your disposal is your time. All right, we got 5 forms of investment: time, money, attention, energy, and focus. You run out of money, you can make it back. Now, any of you ever lost a whole bunch of money in a short period of time? Put the number 3 in the chat. If any of you has ever lost or spent a big chunk of money, big to you, in a short period of time, or if you have ever earned or gained a big chunk of money in a very short period of time, put the number 3 in the chat if you have ever had that experience. The thing about money is, and I see some 3s coming in there, I see some 1s coming in there as well. Just send a journey asking, just send any message to that number, you'll get a bot response, and then you'll be getting my daily motivation text. Money can come and go in big chunks in quick periods of time. Attention, energy, and focus, if you run low on those, just go take a nap or go to sleep. Tomorrow morning you'll wake up, you'll have a replenished amount of it. Time, it goes on continuously, and once it's gone, it's gone. All right, today is May 29th, 2023. There will never be another 8 to 9 o'clock hour, May 29th, 23 ever in life. That's why time is our most valuable resource, because you can't replace it. So it's not only about implementing, but also respecting the fact that you don't have forever to get to your implementation. So you want to be implementing as quickly as possible when you have an idea or a notion or some new information that you could possibly apply. So let's get into why anytime you get some information or some insights, any of you is in a coaching program, or you're having a consultation, or you read a book, or you listen to one of the wonderful segments from the great hosts that we have here at Breakfast with Champions, you go to an event and you take some notes and you get an idea like, damn, that's a good thing. I might need to try that. Or you're watching a YouTube video, listen to a podcast. Why you need to implement that idea that you get immediately? Let me tell you why. Point number one, we are talking here implementing. Why you need to implement quickly? First of all, because you paid for the information. Even if you didn't pay with money, you paid with your time. You paid with your attention. You paid with your focus. And again, these are the biggest investments that you make, is the payments of these 5 forms of investment: time, money, attention, energy, and focus. So when you pay to get access to insights, information, answers, better quality questions, then you better use it. Use what you paid for. And the reason why you need to do that is because using or implementing what you paid for is a way of you showing respect to yourself and respecting and trusting your own decision making. Like, if I'm going to buy a ticket to go to an event, okay, I need to get some insights and some information and something out of this event that I'm going to go apply, so I can make sense of the fact that I invested my time, my money, my energy, and the opportunity cost of everything else that I wasn't doing by being at this event. So I need to get something out of this that makes it make sense for me. And if I can't get anything out of it that makes it make sense for me, then I'm going to trust myself less, because how did I make that bad decision to show up there in the first place? So I'm going to make it work because I've already made the investment. So what you want to make sure you don't become is what I call the PIG, P-I-G. That stands for Professional Information Gatherer. And some people with social media and all the content that we all can put out and access these days, some of us sleepwalk ourselves into becoming professional information gatherers. We are gathering information over and over and over again. We got all these books, all these podcasts we listen to, all these notes that we take, but none of it is being implemented. You want to make sure you don't fall into that trap. Point number two, we're talking why you need to implement quickly. Number two, you accessed whatever information that you have because you reasoned that this person who wrote the book, this person who's hosting the segment, this person who has the podcast, this person who's having a live event, this person who has a coaching program, you invested in it because you reasoned that this person knows something that you don't know. So if you're not exactly where you want to be in your business, in your life, or whatever it is that you're getting information about, you're not doing. And the longer you take to address this void, the longer you will suffer existing at some place that is lesser than your full potential. So the sooner you are able to implement what you learn, the faster you will close your knowledge gaps. Because anything that you don't know is going to cost you in life. Anytime you're not getting the outcome that you want, there's either something you don't know or something you're not doing, or a combination of both. Now, while information is everywhere, it's pretty much ubiquitous these days. The challenge is not getting information. The challenge is getting the right information, the right knowledge, and then knowing how, where, and when to use it. This is called insight. And usually you get that, again, by getting around other people who know things that you don't know. Because if all we needed to be quote unquote successful was information, well, then everybody would just be wildly successful because we all have access to more information than we even need. Point number three, we're talking implementing with speed. If something does not work for you, you want to know as soon as possible so you can make adjustments and implement again. If something's not working, you need to know why it's not working, what's caused it to not work, what I need to do different, how do I fix this? You want to find that out as quickly as possible. This should not be some unsolved mystery that takes you 3 months to figure out. It shouldn't even take you 3 weeks. Not everything is for everyone, and not everything is going to work for you the way that you want it to. So every implementation provides you another data point and more experiential knowledge, as we say, that you get from experience that you now have to use moving forward. So anytime something's not working, you need to figure out why it's not working, what caused it to not work, what did I not do, what am I doing that's causing this, how do I fix this? And you want to find that out as quickly as possible. This is why you want to have other high quality people around you so that, again, you don't have these unsolved mysteries that are just lingering and you're just trying to figure things out. You should not be working on the same problem for 6 months unless you have other people around you and it may be a complex problem. And if you have high level people around you, you should be able to solve your issues and figure out what the actual issue is much more quickly than if you're doing everything by yourself. So if you got people around you and you still have these unsolved mysteries, then maybe you got to solve the mystery of getting the right people around you. But there is a solution, and you shouldn't just be sitting there waiting on the solution, trying to figure it out or not figuring it out because you just feel like you're stuck. And number 4, only purpose of information, everybody, is in its use. That's the only purpose for information. You don't get information just to say you got it. Again, becoming a professional information gatherer, the pig. Having information alone is not worth anything. Your coach or mentor, if you have one, loves nothing more than their students actually using what they are taught. So any of you who ever joins a coaching program, or you hire a consultant, or you sign up for somebody's course, or you read somebody's book, or you buy somebody's book, rather, understand that the benefit for the creator, the person who sold it to you, is not in collecting money from you. The benefit is, the money is part of it because it's business. But the real benefit is you actually getting a result. You actually getting a result from what they shared, because that proves that the work they put into creating the thing is actually producing outcomes for people. And it also is what we call social proof. It will help us get the next person to come in and they get a result too. And they get a result and they get a result. But if I write a book and you buy the book, yeah, it's cool. I appreciate the $20, but I want you to read the book and actually apply it and say, here's a result I got from reading the book. That's the real payback that I get, because I could sell the book to another person. I could sell the book to somebody else, but it's the outcomes. We want you to get an outcome from anything that we share. And anybody who's a host here at BWC, we share these segments in our books and our courses and our programs and our live events because we want to help you get results. And the faster you get a result, the faster you get to a higher level. And the faster I can use you as a case study, as proof that I know what I'm doing, that I know what I'm sharing. So that's the purpose of information. Having it alone is not the thing. You'd be surprised how many people will invest in help, invest in insight, invest in information, only to what I call masturbate on the information, don't produce any results, and don't do anything with it. How many of you, any of you who's in here, I want you to put the number 4 in the chat. If you are you're in the thought leadership space, and you ever sold somebody a book, a course, a program, training, etc., and you know for a fact that they did absolutely nothing, even though they paid for it. They did absolutely nothing with what you sold them, even though they paid in full, but they did not apply anything that you told them. Any of you who's ever had that experience, put the number 4 in the chat. If you are a practitioner, coach, speaker, author, trainer, consultant, you shared information that you know could help them if they went and applied it, but you know that they did not apply it. So in other words, you sold something to a professional information gatherer. If you've ever had that experience, put the number 4 in the chat. If you've ever sold anything to a professional information gatherer. All right, you want to make sure the people that and those of you who are practitioners, you want to make sure people are actually implementing the things that you share. So you can look at your stuff and see, hey, am I making this as easy as possible for them to implement? Maybe you have some barriers to that implementation that might be causing this issue as well. Now let's get to the third part of my 3 sub-segments here, was about executing with speed. So this is more of a follow-up, additional points to what I talked about in the first part here. And the overall topic here today is implementing with speed. So I talked about this concept a lot of times. I talk about this all the time, especially over in Work on Your Game world. And I will talk about it more times in the future. So this will not be the last time you hear me talk about these things. And this is such an important aspect of creating and sustaining. Too often insert delay into their process of getting to what they want to get to. Being that my whole brand is called Work on Your Game, you're not coming in there unless you know that you're going to do something. Or you hear the phrase work on your game. You know you're going to do something. The first word is work. Verb is a verb. It's an action word. You're going to do something. So when somebody comes to me and then they say they want to achieve this, they want to achieve that, they want to do this thing, but then they want to add time to the process. Well, let me think about it. Let me look into it. Let me consider it. I don't know yet. You're adding time to the situation. Again, folks, let's keep in mind, we do not have unlimited time. So every time you delay something, you are unconsciously saying that you believe you have enough time to finally get to this when you get around to it. Well, what if your time runs out? This is just something you should think about and keep in mind on a daily basis. Forget about just this point, but just on a daily basis, keep this in mind. Your time is not unlimited. Point number 1, I'm talking about how to execute with speed. How many points I got here? 3 more points, then we're going to open the floor up. We may have a good amount of time today. Let's see. Number 1, you want to implement with speed. You got to have a plan ahead of time, or execute with speed. You must have a plan ahead of time. In other words, when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do every day is work out. So whether like today I went to the boxing gym, then other days I go outside and run, whatever it is that I'm doing. And even back when I was playing basketball, I always had a plan of what I was going to do for my workout before I got to the gym. I had a plan for my workout the night before I even went to sleep the night before. I knew exactly what I was going to do, where I was going to do it, what time I was going to get there, how long it was going to take, when I was leaving, and exactly what I needed to do when I got home. I already knew. I had a plan ahead of time. Why is this a thing? Plans are often, when it comes to big picture in life, like these plans that I'm talking about usually happen the way I expect. But in the big picture in life, plans are often useless, but planning is priceless. What does that mean? Plans are often useless. Again, we're talking like planning next 5 years. Things are definitely not going to happen exactly the way you plan them over the next 5 years, even if you sit down and make a 5-year plan. However, the time that you spend making the 5-year plan allows you to think ahead of time about what you might need to deal with, what you're going to need to do, what are some contingencies you could put in place, what are some things that you might not have thought of in the moment, but because you took time to think of it ahead of time, you can have things in place for that so that when it's time to execute, you can execute a whole lot faster. It's easier to execute quickly when you have already pre-thought about what needs to happen, when it needs to happen, where, who's going to do it, and why. When I was in college, for example, my sophomore year, all my coaches didn't do this. My sophomore year coach, I played for more than one coach. My sophomore year coach, he would have a plan for practice. So when practice started, he would blow the whistle. He would pull out a little piece of paper, and he already had it written down, every single thing we were going to do. He had the whole practice scripted out. And he was probably the most disciplined of the coaches that I played for. He was the most disciplined one. Why? Because he had a plan ahead of time of what he was going to do. When people think about executing with speed, we often think about the urgency that we need to move with, right? And having more energy and having other things that are action based. Like, all right, let me just move faster. Let me watch these dishes really fast so I can get to the next thing I got to do. Yes, that's part of it, moving with speed. But one thing that aids in execution, no matter what the reason, be it speed or anything else, is just planning ahead of time what you're going to do. If you plan ahead of time what you're going to do, you don't have to think about what to do in the moment. That way, we already know what needs to be done. There's no waste of time, no waste of energy. We're not trying to figure it out, or even, we don't need to figure out what to do or even how to do it. We just execute what we've already planned, what we already decided to do. Any of you who takes public transportation on a regular basis, can we agree that it's a good thing that they plan ahead of time what's going to happen? And usually, not all the time, but usually, I know somebody has a joke they can insert here, but usually it's on time. Now, usually the train comes when it's supposed to, the bus comes when it's supposed to. Any of you who flies regularly, the plane comes when it's supposed to, most of the time, because they plan ahead of time. What if you started operating your life like that? Where you were 99% reliable, like the train or the airplane or the bus? Would you get more done? Would you be more consistent? Could people rely on you better? Think about your day, today or yesterday or tomorrow, for example. If you have it planned out exactly what needs to be done and in what order things will be done, you don't have to use any of your time or brain power figuring things out. Therefore, there's less wasted time between tasks because you don't have to think about what to do next. You can simply go from one task to the next, to the next, to the next, and get a whole lot more done. Because if you don't know what to do, then you got to figure that out every single time you finish one thing before you do the next thing. Again, this is why plans are often useless, but planning is priceless. How many of you, I think I asked this question last week, I want you to put the number 5 in the chat. If you have things on your to-do list today that you did not get done last week, they got pushed over to this week because you didn't get them done last week. How many of you got any carryover tasks this week that you didn't finish last week? Okay, if you're putting a 5 in the chat, or even if you're thinking this, but you haven't, don't want to announce it out loud, and that's fine. I want you to look at where is time leaking out in your day or in your days, plural. Where are you having time leaks? Where you finish one thing and then you're thinking about 7 minutes, that 12 minutes in between tasks. Those start to add up to hours over the course of a week, hours over the course of a month. And then you get to the end of the month or the end of the year or the end of the day, and you say, I don't have enough time to get everything done. No, you have enough time. We all got the same amount of time, 24 hours a day. So anytime somebody says they don't have enough time, it doesn't make any sense. We all got the same amount, and it ain't changing. What you need to do is make more of the time that you have is the better thing. So instead of saying, I don't have the time to get that done, or I didn't have time to get that done, instead you should say, you know what, I didn't make enough of the time that I had to get that done. That's the more accurate way of saying it, more self-accountable way of saying it. Point number 2, we're talking here about executing and implementing with speed. Number 2, give yourself mandates and standards. Because people hear this and they say, all right, Dre, that all sounds good. It makes sense. Logically, it makes perfect sense. But how do I actually do this? How do I move myself to start doing this? Here's the crux of it right here. Give yourself mandates and standards. Tell yourself exactly what needs to get done every day. And here's the key. Do not allow yourself off the hook for not getting things done. Now, we talked about earlier in this segment, I talked about Memorial Day being the day that it is. And again, I don't come from a military background, but I have a lot of people in my audience who do, and maybe is probably has to be some people in this room who do. When you're in the military, can you just get to things when you want to? Can you get around to things when you feel like it? And when you're told to do something, it needs to be done. It needs to be done a certain way. It needs to be done at a certain time, and you have a certain amount of time to get it done. From what I hear, and at least what I've seen on TV, you get a certain amount of time to eat your lunch. You got a certain amount of time to make your bed. You got a certain amount of time to get up, get dressed, and be where you're supposed to be to start doing whatever work needs to be done. There's no you get to it when you get to it. We get lazy because we're allowed to be lazy. When you give yourself a mandate and a standard to get things done a certain way, you will perform up to your standards. But you have to set standards in order to perform to standards. And this is why it's so important to be around other high-level people who will help hold you accountable just by association and not by direct communication. In the military, this absolutely happens because there are standards there and everybody has to live up to the standard. Now, you're not in that type of space. Who do you have around you who's going to help hold you accountable? Who do you have in your life that you respect enough to hold you accountable? This is an important one because you can have the best ideas in the world about being held accountable, but do you have someone in your life who you respect enough to hold you accountable? Where you say to them, all right, if I don't get this done, I got to give you $100, and then you don't get it done. All right, can that person really get that $100 out of you that you were supposed to pay because you didn't get the thing done? Who in your life do you respect enough and has enough of your respect that they can actually hold you accountable for what you were supposed to do? If you can't answer the question, this is an association challenge that you want to address, because getting these people around you will help you perform at a higher level because they're going to hold you to a standard. It will be uncomfortable at times, but again, this is exactly what we all need. So not allowing yourself off the hook requires not only the discipline and the self-accountability for doing what you say you're going to do, it also requires that you act accurately and realistically calibrate what you can do and not put too much food on your plate, so to speak. So any of you who's had carryover tasks from last week, is it because you were not active enough or urgent enough in getting things done, or did you simply put too many things on your plate that you just could not realistically get done in one day? I heard a businessman by the name of Alex Sharfin. He talked about pulling your goals closer. Sometimes we set the goals of trying to get too much done, and instead what we need to do is maybe trim down, shave down what we're planning on getting done, get done what we said we were going to get done, so we're actually hitting our goals and hitting all our numbers, and then we can slowly start to build up over time. Instead of setting goals that are so high that we only hit half of them or 40% or 20%, some of us are okay with that because we have our mindset is set and that is okay that we only hit half of them because we're still making progress. But many people, they're not hitting all their goals. They start to beat themselves up because they're not. So are you structuring things in a way that sets you up for success, or are you not? So make sure you're not filling your plate with too much stuff. So it will help if you work with someone who can help you be honest about what you can do and what you can't do in the span of a day, a week, a month, a year. What makes this valuable is that you will, if done properly, have fewer days where you are beating yourself up or feeling like you are underperforming because you have so many things left undone on your to-do list. How about you just set the list up for success? Structure your success. I talk often that discipline, a lot of people think discipline is a mindset challenge that produces structure when it's actually the other way around. Structure produces discipline. You put the right structure in place and the discipline becomes easy and the outcomes become much more predictable because there's a structure in place that produces said outcome. Some people in business also call these systems. Speaking of such, let's move on to point number 3. We are talking how to implement with speed, use systems. What is a system? System is a mechanism that executes your process for you or gives you direct instructions on how to execute your process, such that you are not deciding, figuring, or guessing how to execute a process. Now, let me make that really simple. When I say system, or any of you listening here, people talk about systems, especially in business. It sounds like some It needs to be some big complicated thing. It need not be that. I worked at McDonald's as a senior in high school. McDonald's is a business that runs on systems. They don't have the best quality food, but they have a whole lot of locations and they make a whole lot of money and they serve a whole lot of customers. Why? Because they have very, very tight, clean systems. When I worked there, I mostly worked in the back making the burgers. So if you ordered a cheeseburger back in 1998, I probably made it for you. So when the burger came through on the order screen in the back, one person put the bread into the warmer. It would come through in about 3 seconds. They would put it on the yellow little paper that the cheeseburger comes on. They would put one squeeze of ketchup, one squeeze of mustard. Then they would slide it down to the next person working on this little assembly line that we had. And that person would put the onions and the pickles and one slice of cheese, quote unquote cheese, whatever that is that they put on the burgers at McDonald's. Then they would slide it to the next person. They would be standing next to the warmer that kept all the meat, quote unquote meat. And they would pull out the meat and they would put the burger on top of the cheese. And then they would wrap it up and they would put a little sticker on it and they would slide it into the warmer. And that warmer would be transferable to the people working on the front line. Those are the people that talk to the customers. And they would grab the burger, they put it in the bag, then they would go get the fries. And they put the fries in the bag and they put whatever else they ordered, the Happy Meal toy, and the customer would get it. And the reason I'm explaining that whole process there, that what I just told you is a system. That's a system. Every time somebody orders a cheeseburger at McDonald's, that same thing happens and it's still happening to this very day. I haven't eaten McDonald's in a long time and will not eat it for a long time, but that's a system. The fries, same way every time. Any McDonald's you go to, at least in the United States, the fries are the same way. The McFlurry's the same way. The burgers are the same way. Whatever burger you order is the exact same way. The process is the same over and over and over again. And even now today, you notice a lot of McDonald's, they're replacing humans with computers. So now you walk into a McDonald's, you don't even talk to a human. You put some buttons on the screen and your meal gets made. So now they're replacing the human beings with these processes that the machines can do over and over again. So that's a simple form of a system. Another form of a system is how many of you actually put the number 6 in the chat if you lay your clothes out the night before for what you're going to wear the next day? Put the number 6 in the chat if you do that. On a regular basis, so today's Monday, before you go to bed tonight, you lay your clothes out for what you're going to wear on Tuesday. Put the number 6 if you do that. Okay, so I see a lot of you putting 6s in there. That alone is a system. When you lay your clothes out, you probably have a system. Okay, I need a top. If you go to the gym, you need your gym clothes. What shoes am I going to wear? What socks am I going to wear? All that stuff, you lay it out. You got a place where you put it. You have a way that you organize it. You have certain things you need to get. Wait, I'm missing something. Oh, I forgot that. You go grab that. That's a system. That alone is a system. Any of you who has kids and you make your kids lunches to go to school, you have a process for how you do that. There's a system for, if you look around in your own life, you notice that you have a lot of systems that you operate by. And if you look around in any business that is consistent and you know what you're going to get from them, there are systems to how they do things. All of us, if you want to be more efficient in anything that you're doing, implement more systems. Anything that you do over and over and over again, there needs to be a system for it. Any of you who's a coach, consultant, trainer, instructor, any of you who works with people directly, like somebody can pay you and you will actually work with them on a human level, meaning you don't just send them a link and they get a bunch of stuff. Or maybe you have, sometimes they do that, but there are times where you actually work with them where they get calls with you and you talk to them, things like that. How many of you, I want you to put the number 7 in the chat, if you have an onboarding process, anytime somebody comes into your program as a coach, consultant, trainer, and even those of you who are professional speakers, you book a speaking gig, there's a certain process of things that you go through every time you book a speaking gig that you need to do. You just book this gig. So this gig is going to be in October 3rd in San Diego. There are certain things that you need to do with that client to make sure you have everything ready before that happens. Put the number 7 if that's you. All right, so Ramon, you said yes, you have that for speaking. That is a system. That alone is a system. As long as if you have a process, every time this happens, that's a system. And again, the system does not have to be a 37-step thing with a whole manual for it that you have to have a PhD to understand. A system is just a process that takes a duplicatable task and it systematizes it. I shouldn't use the word system in the definition, but it makes it repeatable so that you can do the same things the same way every time. That's what a system is. It executes your process for you, or it tells you what to do. So when you have systems in place, folks, your system should be working harder than a human, or the humans, plural. Because when you have a system, all the human has to do is whatever the system says to do. So the human doesn't have to think too hard. Steve Jobs is a guy who's famous for having a system with his clothing. Those of you who know who Steve Jobs is, he's the guy who made the phone that you're listening to this on, or he envisioned it. And his system was, I'm going to wear the same black shirt and the same pants every day. Not the same shirt and pants, but he bought a whole bunch of the same shirt and a whole bunch of the same pants. And his reasoning was, I don't want to use any of my brain power on what kind of clothes I'm going to wear, because I want to use my brain power on building this phone that became the iPhone, and this tablet that became the iPad, and revolutionizing this company that became Apple. He wanted to save his brain power by systematizing his clothing. And Apple has a lot of great systems. And you look around at Apple, you notice some things happen over and over again the same way. Go into an Apple store, notice how they're all set up the same way. They're basically marketing. You go to an Apple store, how many products are they marketing? You look around, there's a phone, there's a tablet, there's a watch, there's a computer. That's pretty much it. Every Apple store. And you ever seen an empty Apple store? Let's move on. Using systems. All right, the more dialed in your system is, the easier it is for you to execute without having to think, figure, decide, ask, or organize anything. System has already done all of these things for you. This is why systems matter so much, and why companies who operate with systems can produce results consistently and quickly. It's not because they have amazing people, even though they might. There's some mediocre people too. I mean, I worked at McDonald's. There's some mediocre people working there, but McDonald's makes a whole lot of money. Why? Because it's not about the people. It's really not. They may say it's about the people. It's not about the people. It's about the system, because the people come and go. I came, I went. They're still running. All right. McDonald's did not shut down when I quit. It's because they have the systems. The people are possible because the system makes them possible. When you have a tight enough system, it becomes less important who the people are. To that. There are some exceptions to that. But when you have a tight enough system, the people are not the most important thing. The system is the most important thing. You can plug and play the people. Again, depending on what you're doing. So there are some exceptions to that point. But let me recap what I got here today. The topic, again, is how to execute with speed, acting with speed. I gave you 9 points over 3 subtopics here. Let's recap these and open the floor up. So number 1, at your own pace is too damn slow. Number 1, all the best performers have coaches, because other people, whether it's a coach, trainer, accountability partner, your brother, your sister, husband and wife, they will push you to do things that you would never push yourself to do. This is why you need other people around you. Do not try to do it all by yourself. It is not going to be as fast as it could be. Number 2, your pace means staying in your comfort zone and doing what's convenient for you. The comfort zone is intriguing. It is inviting. It is enticing because it's easy. You need to get out of your comfort zone in order to get into your growth. Number 3, your own pace is not the solution. Your own pace is actually the problem. And so a lot of times people are asking the wrong question. The wrong question is, how do I do things at my own pace? That's the wrong question. That's actually the problem. You need to get you out of your own pace and move somewhere that's uncomfortable for you. The second part is why to implement with speed. Number 1, because you paid for any information that you received, whether you paid in your time, your money, your attention, your energy, and your focus, maybe a combination of those. If you pay for something, you better make sense of it. You better make it make sense. All right. And if you have an accountant, you pay for something, your accountant wants to know, all right, why'd you pay for this? All right, what was the reason for this? Explain this to me. Or a financial advisor, you need to be able to explain it. If you can't justify, an investment that you made, then why'd you make the investment? So this is why you need to implement anything that you pay for. Number 2, you pay because you reason that somebody knows something that you don't know. So let's find out by implementing what they gave you and make it make sense. Number 3, if something is not working, you need to know as soon as possible so you can make adjustments and re-implement, try again what you have. So you get some new information you want to implement as quickly as possible so you can find out, can I make this work? Can I not make this work? Does it make sense for me? Does it not make sense for me? If you sit on it for 3 months, now that's 3 months of time that you have less left of your life to implement and get the results out of that thing that you paid for. Number 4, the only purpose of information is in its use. All right, do not become a professional information gatherer, just gathering information for the sake of doing so. You want to actually implement and use the information. The third part, how to execute with speed. Number 1, have a plan ahead of time. Plans are useless. Planning is priceless. Time that you spend planning will let your brain, most powerful tool known to man, start to go to work on your outcome before you even get to work on it. Number 2, give yourself mandates and standards. Tell yourself exactly what needs to get done every day and stop letting yourself off the hook for not getting things done. one thing I like to say is you do not negotiate with yourself. You wouldn't negotiate with your drill sergeant. You didn't negotiate with your parents when you were a kid. You didn't negotiate with your teachers when you were in school. You don't negotiate with your boss when you're at work. So why do you negotiate with yourself? All right, show yourself the same respect. Number 3, use systems. A system is a mechanism that executes your process for you or gives you instructions on what to execute so that you don't have to figure everything out on your own. It doesn't become a human thing. It just becomes a process thing. So all that said, I think this is a record. I'll have 10 minutes of open time for open discussion here. So you all, I'm hoping that you come through here, and I'm giving you a mandate to come through. Let's open the floor up and talk about executing with speed. Anything around with inside this topic. Mic's open.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Dr.
who's this?
Emerald. Dr. Emerald.
Hey, Dr. Emerald, good morning.
Your favorite new, I guess, player. So Dr. Dre did not plant me in the audience. He always says that, and that's true. I actually was looking for a coach of my own because I'm actually leaving my current job 2 months early as of Wednesday. And there are a lot of things in medicine that I really appreciate an outside perspective on, and that's what Dre all day has been really helpful for, because a lot of us in medicine and a lot of other very intelligence, not so much every single type of intelligence, but study hard intelligence and not necessarily emotional IQ or intelligence. We have a lot of shortcomings, and we have to deal with a lot of different types of mentors and sponsors and mentees, and a lot of people masquerading as adults who are very highly skilled in their specific fields, but not in actual being grown-ups, which is like disappointing sometimes. But I think all the information that Dre shared today echoes and dovetails off of what I think Amelia shared before, and everybody else has been sharing here with Ramon, and I know there's like Mary Kim and Mary Ann and everybody who has spoken. So really helpful to have mentors and coaches in your field and also outside your field to get that perspective. And then for us, we have information gatherers. Oftentimes we lump them in as millennials or participation trophy gatherers. I know you say strongly about them, but a lot of times we have to adjust to the new type of learner, and we have to, in a way, try not to coddle them too much, but the pendulum of giving feedback swings back and forth in medicine all the time. And we have some really great teachers in our field who are like, oh, well, it's our fault that like the learner's not learning. And whereas like, I think when you have the open space or have a safe space to really have a good, honest feedback, that's when you make the most progress. So you have to be able to be in a good working relationship or good mentor-mentee relationship where you're able to say the frank things that somebody needs to hear, but they have to be ready for it, because if you say it to them when they're not ready, it could just deflect, and then they act out and they have a tantrum and then nothing gets accomplished. So I think that's really helpful.
Yes.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm just co-signing what you're saying.
Okay, thank you. And I think like doing audits, as we've all mentioned, and course correcting, and just knowing like from these coaching books that I've been reading, even I'm doing basketball right now. There's also a baseball edition and a football edition, but basically what everyone says is that like winning isn't necessarily everything, and everybody makes mistakes, and the one who wins is the one who makes the least mistakes and learns from it. So it's like the course correcting and auditing. Sometimes you do have to slow down in order to speed up. So if you went without sleep for 24, 48 hours, you kind of need that in order to perform better. So all the lifestyle things that we know are, so simple and free, like sleep, and we don't really make time for it. So as one of our mentors in the field said, you don't have time not to make time for it. And then I guess lastly, in homage to military, so systems-based stuff, they call SOP. Yes. And I'm done speaking.
All right, perfect. Well, I appreciate you sharing there, Emerald. Thank you for being here this morning as usual. Thank you. Who else wants to add anything or share anything?
Hey, Andrew.
Hey, who's this?
This is Gary at the bottom.
Hey, Gary. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Great.
Awesome. All right. I want to say I really love your presentation. I love how you spoke about systems. I do believe that systems is very important. And you also went on to expand on speed, execute with speed.
Mm.
But what I wanted to put is that is there any exception to the rule from your perspective? And I want to just explain this. I do believe that sometimes clarity in execution sometimes trumps speed, or it depends on when the clarity comes. And what do I mean by clarity? I'm into marketing, and what I need is data before I execute.
Mm.
If I don't have data, it means that I have a blindfold over my eyes. And the last thing that I want to do is to execute with speed without being able to anticipate the outcome. The inability to anticipate the outcome can cause me time, money, and possibly stress. Data helps me to understand the size of my market. Data helps me to understand who is my target market. Data helps me to understand urgency and immediacy in providing my value offer. And after I would have gathered that information, I believe that every single thing that you would have said becomes so relevant in the execution process.
Yeah, so what's your question, Gary?
Is there an exception to the rule?
Sure, there's exceptions to every rule. I mean, anything there can be exceptions to it. I get what you're saying, that you want to get the data, get the information first, and then go and execute. You could also say, hey, act with more speed when it comes to gathering the data and having the information before you can get to moving on it. So sure, there can be times that you may not want to act immediately because you got to have all your stuff together, but that also goes into the planning process. So I think the question that you're asking, the point that you're making, kind of goes into one of the other points that I made as well. Does that make sense?
I got you, my friend. No problem.
All right, appreciate you. All right, thank you for jumping in. All right, who else has anything? We got 3 minutes here. Hey, who's this?
Hey, Dre, Shantae, I got a question.
Hey, Shantae, good morning.
Good morning. Happy Memorial Day to everybody. So how much weight should you be putting on whether somebody implements? Like, I have a client that literally signs up for every section, Dre, and she just does little to nothing with it, but she's always the first one to sign up for my health classes. And so, I don't know at what point do you dismiss, someone, or how you should weight that implementation part.
That's a good question. So that kind of becomes I don't know, some people could look at that as a moral challenge. I would say as a business person, as an entrepreneur, Shantae, your job is to collect the money. Now, whether or not they implement and do something with it, of course, you want to get them to implement, and you want to set things up to make it as easy as possible for them to implement and get a result. But if they want to, they call it to pay and stay, then you as a business person, it's your job to collect money. So I wouldn't put hey, she's not implementing, so don't let her buy anything else. I will let her keep mine if she wants to keep mine. Maybe that's the win for her, is that she gets to buy and she gets to be part of a group and say that she did something. That's it for her. But you want to make sure you're getting somebody a result, because that'll be the social proof to help you get the next client.
Thanks for that. I appreciate it.
And they'll eventually remove themselves if they don't want to be in it anymore.
Yeah, that's right. But maybe that's a win for her. She just wants to feel like she's part of something.
2 years strong, brother.
Yeah. Keep getting them checks. That's what we say in sports.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, you got 1 minute left. Time for about one more share. Anybody else want to go? Mic's open. Counting down. 5, 4, 3, 2. Who's that?
Hey, Dre, it's Trisha.
Hey, Trisha.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for the last statement you made about stop giving yourself excuses for not doing the work. I think that's what I do all the time, is that I make excuses for myself, and because I wouldn't allow anybody else the excuse if they don't finish what I put in front of them to do, if they don't complete the job. So why do I give myself the excuse? So thank you for saying that. I really appreciate it. I need to stop giving myself the excuses.
That's right. Well, I appreciate you, and I'm glad you caught that, and I'm glad it resonated with you. So I'm looking forward to hearing next week, Trish, that you stopped giving yourself excuses on some things and you got some different outcomes. So appreciate you sharing. So everybody, we are right at 9 a.m. Everyone, I appreciate your time and attention for this last hour. I'm going to be passing the mic to a person who is their business is faith forward, activating, aligning, amplifying your kingdom sparkle. I'm just reading from her bio. This is Angeline. Good morning, Angeline. How are you? Happy Memorial Day.
Yeah, good morning, Dre. Happy Memorial Day. What an amazing thing, segment. Everyone unmute. Give it up for Dre Baldwin. Dre all the way. I keep calling you Dr. Dre, but it's not.
Now I keep thinking I should have went to medical school like Dr. Emerald. Then I could literally be Dr. Dre. Appreciate you.
Be your next accent, Dre. To go get
No, that is absolutely not happening. No.
All right. Thank you so much, Dre. Everybody, give it up. Give it up.
Appreciate y'all. Y'all Instagram. Look out for the next reel coming.